¿Cómo está, amiga Higala? Welcome back to our channel. When I tell people that we're building a second home in the Philippines and we'll be spending the UK winters there, everyone's reaction is the same. Oh wow, I wish we could do that. Well, you can, and I'll tell you how. In the UK, we seem to enjoy familiarity, not push the boundaries or do anything too extravagant, and that's fine. It's safe, it's predictable, but it's also pretty boring. The daily drudgery of modern day life and all the stresses it entails can result in you getting to a certain age and saying, is this it? I look at people around me of the same age and see no spark, no adventure, no desire or energy to do any more than they have always done. Work, kids, life, rinse and repeat. And then the kids leave home, retirement is looming, and everything stays the same. It just slows down. Lives just become slower. I'm not someone that wants that, just to do what everyone else is doing, to just quietly fade away. There's still some adventure left in this old dog yet. At the age of 53, I'm semi-retired, and that has given me the opportunity to look at life from a different angle before I get too old. What I saw was that I didn't want to carry on just carrying on here in the UK. It's a great country, don't get me wrong, but at times it can be stressful and depressing, especially in the cold, wet, and miserable winter. Now here's what's different for us than for most people in the UK. Perla being a Filipina. She's lived in this country for 30 years and only been back to the Philippines a handful of times. She's never previously considered returning, but since we've been together, the idea that we can actually spend half the year in the Philippines has grown from an offhand comment into a first conversation and finally into an elaborate plan that has both of us quite excited. Over the past 2 years, we've been planning our great adventure. As you heard in the last episode, we bought the land, enough to build a house in the city and one in the provinces. The house sale here is going ahead and should be completed by the end of January. And in less than 1 week, we'll be in the Philippines to get the building process started. Now, I know what you're thinking. We can't do that. We're not Filipino. Well, you don't have to be. You can do the same, and there's many ways to achieve it. Firstly, you can visit the Philippines anytime. You don't need a visa. Your first 29 days are visa-free, and extending it is easy and cheap, not like Thailand. And you don't need to buy or build a property in the Philippines, not until you're absolutely sure that it's for you. Renting is so much easier, and rental prices are incredibly low. For example, a 2-bedroom property in a small city can be as little as £300 a month. Yes, 300. And the advantages? Cost of living, quality of life, no winters, and wonderful people. Let's look first at cost of living. As I mentioned, housing is much cheaper than the UK, about 3 to 4 times cheaper if you're renting, buying, or building. Food and entertainment is also much cheaper. A meal for 2 at a restaurant is between £5 and £15, depending on the location and the establishment. Local markets provide the best value, freshest food, and are also quite fun. However, fish markets tend to be pretty fragrant. Supermarkets are usually well stocked also, with most things that you need. However, your regular brand of Western products may not be available or may come with a high price tag. But the Philippine alternatives are usually just as good, apart from spaghetti sauce. Some cheeses and things like sausages might be hard to find, but there's many Philippine delicacies instead to take your taste buds on an adventure. Things like healthcare and dental treatments are great value. However, if you have any pre-existing conditions that require any specialist hospital care, then it's worth locating near one of the big cities for a good hospital that has all the facilities you may require. Another major cost when living in the Philippines is transport. You can get around using Grab, which is their version of Uber, or tricycles or jeepneys, and using buses to travel longer distances like from city to city. This works out reasonably inexpensive, but really there's nothing better than having your own transportation. The cheapest form of vehicle is the scooter or motorcycle. You can pick up a new basic Yamaha or Honda 125cc motorbike for around £850, and they come with 3 years registration and insurance. But you may want to get additional insurance, as the standard one covers you for only around £700 of claims against you, and nothing for you or your vehicle. After 3 months, 90 days, you'll need to apply for a Philippine driving license. As a driver from a country that drives on the wrong side of the road in the Philippines, you'll also need to take a short driving test, which is only a few minutes around the block, just to prove you can drive on the other side. The license will cost around £30, including the application fee, license fee, and a medical fee. Utilities such as electricity to power your house or apartment can be quite costly in the Philippines. If you absolutely have to have your air conditioning running 24 hours a day, then expect to pay a premium for it, as it will add around £2 to £3 a day to your bill for a single 1.5 horsepower unit. Adapting to the climate and using the aircon sparingly will help keep your electricity bills down. Although the regular brownouts, power cuts, will help do that for you anyway. A mobile phone plan with data will cost you around £25 a month, and internet is around £22. Now, while we're talking about costs, it would be remiss of me to ignore the one thing that winds many Westerners up in the Philippines, and that is what's called skin tax. As a lighter-skinned foreigner with your fancy clothes, watch, and jewellery, you'll be seen as wealthy. You may not feel it, because in the UK you probably have an average income, but in the Philippines you're pretty well off in comparison. The average Filipino earns around 500 pesos a day. That's £6.50. Just enough to live on. So in comparison, you are wealthy. This is accepted by the Filipinos, and as such, some see it as a fair redistribution of wealth to charge you a little extra. This is normally for items or a service where price isn't displayed, such as a taxi in Manila, where they won't turn on the meter, or any kind of service where the cost can be variable. To avoid the skin tax, get a Filipino to barter the price, or even ask for a friendly foreigner discount. You may even arrive back at the local price that they would pay. So in summary, it can be cheaper in the Philippines if you're prepared to live like a local. Living reasonably well in a small apartment, you can expect to spend around £500 a month. If you want your big, luxurious Western comforts in a big city, then expect to pay triple this amount. Regarding quality of life, there's what seems to be a countrywide epidemic in the Philippines. No, it's not COVID, it's happiness. For so many people who have so little to be so happy baffles our Western brains. How do they do it, we ask? The answer is simple. They live a life grateful for what they have. Family is everything. Food is to be enjoyed and shared, in a way celebrated, that there's enough to eat. And happiness is singing. Also, singing is happiness. The Filipinos are people with strong values and kind hearts. Westerners can find this unnerving at first. We're just not used to it. But to let it in and feel the warmth is something that makes a lot of us want to stay. The lack of stress in daily life is also something that is appealing to those of us used to the fast-paced Western lifestyle. Although at times it can be frustrating with Filipino time, meaning that punctuality as a word and also as an ethos is totally unknown by many. It's best to embrace the relaxed way of life and accept that things will take twice as long, People will be late or not even turn up at all. And the deadline is more of a guideline. If you bring your Western purchasing ability, slow your pace down to the Filipino speed, and are prepared to live a simpler life, then you're well on your way to great quality of life. And the thought of not having to get up for work and work all day and come home tired and do all the drudge and blah, 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 and repeat that day in, day out is a massive relief. Also, not having the competitiveness and pressures of doing what's expected, having all the latest gadgets, getting a better everything than everyone else. As they say, life is better in the Philippines. Never mind quality of life, it's a whole different life. So, how do I do it? Well, you too can do this. You can do it right now if your circumstances are right. But I'd advise planning and researching thoroughly before starting the journey. If you're single, with no kids, or with grown-up kids and a decent amount of savings, or maybe retirement is coming up fast, then you're almost set. Ideally, the first step would be to take a trip out to the Philippines and spend a month or so in a couple of locations, just to get a feel for what suits you the best. Then if you're still keen, on the return, get planning. If you're a couple and you've got kids in tow, then things are a little more complicated. Your requirements for location, housing, schooling, and healthcare are going to be vastly different from a free and single middle-aged person. And of course, if one of you isn't Filipino, then you can't work in the Philippines, unless you're seconded there by an employer that's sponsoring the work visa. So you'd have to do some pretty substantial passive income, such as investments, savings, or such like. Not impossible, just a lot more planning, preparation, and cash required. There are people doing it right now, and they're doing great. Just check their channels. So if you want to go, how do you deal with the visas and all that? Well, there are a few visa types, but I advise that you first take advantage of the tourist visa before taking the plunge and spending a lot of time, effort, and money getting a permanent visa before you've even lived there. Your first visa, the visa waiver, allows you to stay for 29 days, like I said. After that, you need to go to the BI, Bureau of Immigration, to extend your stay. This could actually be done at the BI office in Manila Airport as soon as you arrive, and then add a 2-month extension on, so you've got 3 months before you need to extend again. Quite a quick and easy way to give yourself some time to find your feet and be ready to extend your visa again. At the extension following 3 months, you'll need to apply for the ACR card, which is the Alien Certificate of Registration Identity Card, which costs around £35 more for that month only. You can then use this as ID to open a bank account if you need to. You can keep on renewing your tourist visa monthly or bi-monthly for around £40 a month for 3 years. After 3 years, you'll need to leave for one night. Maybe take a cheap trip to Singapore or Hong Kong and have yourself a little holiday, your big holiday, and then come back and start again for another 3 years. There's also a retirement visa available, but this costs much more and requires a deposit of almost £12,000 to be paid into a government bank. So this is best done once you're sure you're definitely staying, and sure you can tie up that amount of cash for as long as you stay. So, this is my last video until we head out to the Philippines in a few days. And that's when our adventure really begins. So, expect a different format, as we'll be showing you every part of it, warts and all. So stick around. Let's see where this adventure goes, shall we? Until next time.